shop started, and we'll give the Lord a word of prayer for you. Kind of having gracious Father, we just love you so much, God. Thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us to enjoy. God, we continue to lift up the Mims and Hall family to you, God, Lord, as they've suffered the loss of Miss Joyce. Just pray that you continue to wrap your arms around them and comfort and console them, Lord God. Lord, we ask for your guidance in this meeting here, that you give us the wisdom and discernment we need to make the right decisions for the citizens of Tift County. And this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, is there anybody here that wants to talk to us about anything for 5 minutes or less?
Oh, yes.
Or less, a little bit. Give them that option, give them that option.
Could you repeat that when Chad gets up? The exact same thing as Chad?
I go 1 minute or less.
That'll work.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, add Miss Emily Beeman to the agenda. She's here to talk about the request to make a change to our current service delivery agreement to add a new service. So if we could add her to items to be discussed as part of regular session as item 5.5.
So you're gonna put her at the end, huh?
Don't want her to leave early. We want to enjoy every bit of it.
All right, we'll add Miss Emily Beeman to the agenda, 5.5. You got a motion for that? We need a motion.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Yeah, second, all in favor? All right.
It's done.
Maybe nodding yes, so I want yes. All right, public hearing, 4.1 TZZA 24-01. Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
First application we have is TC-ZA-24-01, submitted by Oak Ridge Properties owner, Jeremy Campbell, as applicant. Property is located on Oak Ridge Church Road. This is a split from the manufactured home park that he used to own. He has split that property off and retained 12.621 acres. It's currently zoned R8M-MHP, manufactured home park. He wishes to rezone that property to WLI, wholesale light industrial, for the purpose of having a retail manufactured home sales lot. He also mentioned in the planning commission that we held on January the 11th that he also was entertaining putting some mini storage warehouses on the property as well. I wanted to bring to the attention also that he has also mentioned about remodeling manufactured homes on that site, which all would fit within the WLI zoning classification. The split, as you see in your on your maps, he does have road frontage, required road frontage. This property has been platted that way. We've approved this plat. We posted the property in accordance with the requirements of the law. We held the planning commission on January 11th, 2024. Nobody was here to speak in favor or in opposition to his request. We submit to you a complete application for your review and your decision. Any questions for me?
Just now getting to the map.
Looks like it's contiguous with
It is contiguous to the
wholesale light industrial or heavy industrial.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So no spot zoning?
No, sir.
And nobody spoke in opposition or for.
Other than Mr. Campbell, of course. Four. If you've seen your zoning map, of course our GIS maps and all have not been updated to show the split, so I had to draw that in, what was split out, but it is contiguous to WLI.
And the entrance back there is?
He's got the required frontage by our ordinance
Okay.
on Oak Ridge Church Road.
Which is what? How much?
I think WLI carries 60 feet.
And all of this yellow is part of that outline in yellow.
This portion is alongside and behind the existing manufactured home park.
So that's 60
It's an
feet.
L. He's got 60-foot frontage up here at the front. Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for Chris? Okay. All right, go ahead with TZZA 24-02, Chris.
This application board was submitted by Mr. Richard Arnett as owner, Mr. John Hicks as applicant. This property is located on Ferry Lake Road. It is beside 1805 Ferry Lake Road, map and parcel 0071031. It's a 2.88 acre tract, currently zoned general business. That was way before our time. I think the intent was, originally when they rezoned that property, was to put a restaurant out there that never came to pass. Mr. Arnett's bought the property. His intent is to build a single-family dwelling on it and a shop for his grandson. It is completely surrounded by ag. This would actually do a little bit of cleaning up of some spot zoning that we've had in the past. We held the planning commission on the 11th. No one was in here to speak against the request. Mr. Arnett and Mr. Hicks was here in favor of the request. We posted a sign, and we've had no one call or come by our office in opposition to this request.
What type of shop?
Just a storage building. It's not gonna be used for any type of business or whatsoever, it's just for their use. By our definition, the ordinance is an accessory dwelling, or accessory structure.
Okay, questions? All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you, Chris. All right, items to be discussed for regular session, we got 5.1, approval of E&R for tax commissioner Chad Alexander for 5 minutes or less.
5 minutes. Well, I gotta read through every one of these, so we're gonna be here a little bit.
But let's just say, we do appreciate you, Chad.
Well, I appreciate y'all too, Chairman, Commissioners. In your packet, you should have an Excel sheet that lists all the E&Rs we're trying to get off the plant, the books. These are old, pretty much old, a lot of older E&Rs that are just not collectible. I can go, if you got questions on any particular one, I can go through it, but you got the reasoning and the amounts there.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at the agenda item sheet, the amount that actually he's asking the board to consider is $120,346.53. And if you go to the second page, which is the spreadsheet that the commissioner references, it actually breaks those down individually, so you can actually see not only what you would be writing off, but the reason for it.
Yes, sir. That is the city, school, and county amounts, all of it.
The Dixie Mills.
I was looking at that one too.
Yeah.
See, we've already sold that judicial and rim sale. We have collected everything we can. There's nothing else to collect. We applied everything. There was no overage. There was so much taxes from way back when, it didn't even cover the taxes owed. So there's nothing, legally, there's nothing else we can do with that.
They were in bankruptcy also, we had to manage it through bankruptcy, and they actually had, I'm not sure what, also some federal lien priority.
There was a lot of federal,
that was
yes.
above us, and so once they got theirs, and then what was sold off left, that's the deficiency, and there's no asset to recover. So that's where that's at.
And there was no need to do an Elabona because there's nothing there to deal with.
That's correct.
There's no need to have a FIFA in standing for 7 years and keep it on the books. It just overstates your receivables.
So the bottom line is, all the tax liability, including the federal, far exceeded the assets that would have been available to satisfy any of it. And so after we were lower on the list of priorities, and so once we were able to at least collect what we could, that's the residual. And and the entity no longer exists.
Bell Foods, that was the Piggly Wiggly or whatever that was here, wasn't it?
It was revoked, the license was revoked in 2016. I'm trying to get with the assessors. This is something that's hard to do because sometimes they don't file their personal property tax return for like 2 years, and they're already gone and out of business, so there's nothing to collect. There's nothing to go after. A lot of the mobile homes burnt, destroyed, demoed. The Fred's department store went bankruptcy, same thing as what Tony was just talking about. Personal property, you bill it, it's due come January 1st, but if they go out of business in February, we're not billing until August, and it's not due till November. And it's just hard to collect something. If they're out of business and leave, there's nothing there to collect. I can't go after.
And if you don't have, and then a lot of the stuff, a lot of the fixtures in these entities have UCC liens on them because they borrowed money at the bank, and so you know, so the bank's taking back under the lien, you don't, and then by the time you find out about it, you got a shell building, they're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, that's
Yeah.
The nature of
the
this
nature of this
beast.
business. That's
I wish they'd do it another way, collect as personal property like attach it to the real, but a lot of times they'll take, the renter has it in one name and I rent it and Tony owns the building, so therefore I can't go against his building because I'm just a renter.
And all that he can be taxed on is the inventory.
Exactly.
Say he has a store, say he has a shoe store, then the only thing he'd be taxed on is the inventory in his shoe store. So he picks up and goes out in the middle of the night and sells all his stuff on eBay, there's nothing left. And because I'm renting to him, I'm paying my real property taxes, but I'm not liable for that.
Right, two different names also.
And then the Robert L. Grice Trust, I guess that was a separate business on the Grice trucking or Grice pallets and all of that.
Right.
Said bean line, I didn't know
Yeah.
they had a bean line. Okay. All right, any other questions for Chad? All right, consent agenda.
Yeah. Clean it up.
Thank you.
Thank
May I be
you.
excused?
Yes, sir.
Got fire class.
Really, no, you're not excused.
Thank you.
All right, item 5.2, price for pressure washing and painting at the courthouse, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Chairman, as part of our budgetary process, we looked at pressure washing outside and actually doing some painting on the trim and some painting in the courtroom. If you're in the courtroom, you know that needs to be done. So we've solicited some prices. 3 quotes were received. Mr. George's not here tonight, by the way. And Dependable Paint Company at $42,500 was the low bidder for that project. Those bids or quotes are attached for review. Staff recommends taking the low bid and let's, you know, I know we've got plans for remodeling the courthouse, but we gotta keep operating, in the interim, so.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, because that was one of my concerns I wanted to ask about. I understand, we're talking $4,200, $42,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And that, when was the last time we did some maintenance on the courthouse?
The extensive work, probably right, it's been 16 years probably. We really put some paint in it. And we've done work, but I mean.
Not comprehensive work.
Yeah, but the comprehensive stuff was done as part of SPLOST 4.
And it's just me, because I think that $42,000 could go to something else, especially if we're talking about building another courthouse.
Yeah.
How long is that process going to be?
So it just, they're talking about, that courthouse is not going away, right? So the painting of the courtroom, that kind of stuff, we'd still use that courtroom, so that part of.
But we will have some other spots to come along.
Well, we
to
would,
cover that.
whether it be SPLOST or whether it be, some of our fund balance we're talking about
Mhm.
putting in with that. But, you know, the problem is that if you're in the courtroom, we got plaster and those kind of issues inside. So, and if you look at the amount of paint and how high those walls are, that's part of it. And then the outside of it, we got algae growing on and that kind of stuff that needs pressure. So it's a costly endeavor, but, you know, we'll be glad to, I mean, if you look at these quotes, it's for repaint and all painted surfaces with primer, 2 coats of paint, pressure wash before painting, that's the outside, and reglaze the windows as needed. So we're not talking about extensive work, it's just a lot of it. And what we don't want is those windows rotting and water coming in between. So that's really kind of what our thought process was.
And I will say, I mean, the building's gonna be there, because I deal with 60 buildings every day. The building's gonna be there, you gotta maintain it. And even with a new, even if you build a whole new courthouse, you're looking probably at least 2 years before you got architectural drawings. And then you bid it out and it gets built, you're looking another 2 years. You're probably looking at 5 years before you can actually, could go in a whole new building.
So you know, and we have not, the final decision, you guys haven't made it yet, but I mean, so let's say we do the annex that we kind of talked about, which is put another building behind it, which moves those other judicial functions into there. It'll still be tied to that courthouse, and in the interim, while that's being built, we're still gonna hold court like we're doing today, which is there and here and in these ancillary buildings. You know, the other option was to try to figure out how to move the courts off-site and do it all at one time, but the logistics of that is extremely difficult. I mean, you know, looking for space that you can secure and that you can hold court in is
And really, 4250, it's not excessive. I mean, it's not.
I'm just thinking about, we waited 16 years to do some maintenance. And now we're talking about a new courthouse. And so now we wanna go give it a facelift.
and this is not really a facelift, Commissioner. I mean, this is, the painting that needs to be done and the caulking and the windows reglazed. I mean, that's really about tightening up the building. And, you know, these old buildings, they just, they move and they get, I'm not telling you there's not gonna have to be more money spent there. There is. There's money in there for a total rehab of that. But that won't come until after. We can't shut that down until we have that in place. So, there's a little bit of maneuvering and, you know, in a sense, we're keeping this functioning for, as Greg said, probably, I would think 36 months, best case scenario.
This is maintaining the envelope, so it doesn't deteriorate the interior.
Do you have any idea what percentage of this is for the outside work versus interior?
No, sir, I wish Mr. Jordan was here. He's the one that handled this. Don't want to say that you know, if you look at the, just remove all storm windows, scrape, sand, reglaze, caulk, completely prime, existing storm windows. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that's just in, and if you go into that courthouse where the storm windows, just like in this building, I mean, we've just had this building pressure washed last year, and the storm windows redone and that kind of stuff. It just, these buildings settle, they move, and when they do, you know, we've got water coming in from outside behind the walls of the courthouse. We're trying to really stop that, seal up the barrier, and you know, get us through till we're really ready to do some major renovations. That's one of the problems with the, at least from the engineering standpoint that they've explained, is the problem we've had with the basement all along that nobody's been able to figure out is really the way the water's coming down behind the facade and actually entering the basement. So we have on pretty good authority now that we're gonna actually be able to, what we thought for years that all we were gonna be able to do is pump that in, like full of a fill or something, and be done with that basement. We're actually gonna be able to bring that square footage back into utilization. And so anything we're doing here is not throwaway. It's just tightening it up to get us there.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Zone masonry structures such as my house in many ways are bulletproof, but their windows and sometimes their roofing systems where the drains are inbuilt. I've had to replace some windows and mine have been there a long time. It's been there a long time, correct me, from the 20s. But they're massively bulletproof, except you don't have the problems in masonry, but your wood and your windows in particular. So I've had to replace some myself. And having had to do that, I mean, this does not seem an unreasonable price. That's a big undertaking. Lucky to get such low bids in my opinion. I mean, that's separate from whether we do it at all.
We did some painting and pressure washing right after I first got here, but recalking the windows, reglazing the windows, that has not been done since I've been here. So I mean, I think it's time that we try to tighten that up, and that's the reason we talked about putting it in the budget this past year.
Mr. Chairman, last question. In doing this, one thing with the brick, like you said, brick strong, bulletproof, it helps. What would it, I think we ought to ask to seal that building with a sealer on that brick. A brick's nothing but a sponge. I mean, people see it, it's hard, but it absorbs water. And I've used a sealer many times.
But I mean, I think as Commissioner Hughes pointed out, I think it does need to be sealed, and we are talking about a sealer, but that was, you know, we've got roughly, you know, it's gonna cost several $1 million to bring that courthouse up to where we want to be, that portion of it. Sealing of that and you know, making sure that we stop that moisture coming in, just like you said, like a sponge, will be part of that bigger expense, which you know, if you look at a square footage cost, what we were talking about renovating in that courthouse, you're probably looking at about, you know, between $8 and $9 million just on the renovation of the old courthouse.
Well, I'm just talking about putting a water seal.
Well, we could do that. We could spray it once that pressure wash.
Oh, yeah, you gotta clean it first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
Because that would stop the moisture from coming through.
We have price, we can't cook.
But yeah, I mean, What I use is like $55 a gallon.
So it wouldn't be that expensive then, if they're spraying it on.
You gotta get it soaked until it starts running.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's not just a light coat, it's.
No, it ain't like, you soak it until it starts running and you just work your way down, top to the bottom. But it's amazing what it stops.
That's something we can look at. Absolutely.
If not, maybe now, but if not now, sure, when we do the full.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Revelation, yeah, some probably sooner than later.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, consent agenda. I initially had the same reaction Commissioner Hughes did, but when I talked to Mr. Carter, found out it was pressure washers and getting algae off, you know. I know that's cosmetic, but it's important that we maintain a nice looking courthouse.
If y'all were here when we pressure wash this building, it's not like pressure washing the house where you take a wand and do it. It involves lifts and you know, it took them a while to get all the way around this building. And, then you gotta have bucket trucks. I mean, if y'all remember, it was a pretty big ordeal, especially when you're talking about the trim up the top of the trunk and all that good stuff.
I believe you said that there was some boards inside falling down that need to be repaired.
On the inside of the courtroom, if you've been in there, that's from that moisture we're talking about coming in. So it doesn't do a lot of good to fix the plaster inside if we haven't fixed what the problem is in the exterior.
So we need to maintain it looking decent until we can do the remodel. So consent agenda. Everybody good? Yeah. All right. 5.3 bids for the GSP hangar, Florida State Patrol hangar.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, the County Board of Commissioners, Development Authority, the Airport Authority, and the State of Georgia all were looking at relocating a GSP hangar at our airport. We had about $1 million in funding, thought that was going to be adequate. By the time we got around to doing it, we're looking at about a $2 million project. The state they would really like to put this on, this project kind of on the back burner. From a budgetary standpoint, I think they're looking at July of 25, which will be FY 26. It's not a dead project, it's just the funding priority is not here. So I would ask that the board reject the current bids, and this is a project we'll be looking at 12 months from now.
Okay, any questions? Consent agenda?
Yep.
Okay. 5.4 alcohol beverage license applicated, submitted by Cheaton Patel for GI and NIA LLC located at 2473 US Highway 82 East Brookfield. Ms. Miriam Jordan.
This is the last one of our stores that did not renew their alcohol license before the November 1st deadline. And so they had to apply as a new applicant. They've been through the whole process, and the sheriff recommends approval.
Any questions? Consent agenda? All right, 5.5, Ms. Emily Beeman.
Can we introduce her as my good friend, Miss Emily Beeman?
That's what the man said.
There you go. Board Chairman, I'm here before you today. The city is seeking to update our service delivery strategy to include housing revitalization. That is not something that is currently on our service delivery. As you know, this is something that city and counties look at every 10 years. However, DCA does allow us in the meantime to make changes to this. One thing the city is looking at doing for housing revitalization, and we've started this with our urban redevelopment board that we have established for neighborhood revitalization. And one of our goals for the city is to enhance the current neighborhoods that we have. In the city limits, we have a lot of blight and dilapidated structures. This year alone, we've taken down 9 dilapidated structures. So we are continuing to go towards that. The city recently applied for the CHIP, the Community Housing Improvement Program, that is focused on housing. It is a $400,000 grant. They will select 8 recipients from that to include housing updates. I have copies for you to see what the CHIP grant does and how we are working this. So if you'll just take one, I've got 2. We have 2 recipients that have already been selected. Their information is at the top, and as well as their address. Some of the things that we are looking at doing is full electrical system upgrades within the house, new HVAC systems, new hot water heaters, new windows on the outside, new doors. This is for the CHIP grant. So along with that, the city is wishing to apply for the Community Development Block Grant, this also known as the CDBG. This can also be used for housing in impoverished areas. We had an assessment done of Tifton where we looked at 5 different areas within the URA boundaries. We looked at Ferry Lake Road, we looked at Golf Road, we looked at all of South Tifton. Once we received this assessment back, our funds are better spent in South Tifton. So that is the area that we are hoping to go for with the CDBG grant. However, we have a roadblock. A part of the CDBG, one of the requirements for the 2024 applicants is that if you are seeking funds for housing, your service delivery strategy has to be incorporated with that. So we would have to have something for housing revitalization. So what we're seeking is to update the service delivery strategy to include housing revitalization. Tift County can choose to be a part of that. You don't have to be a part of that. The city wants to be a part of that with the funds of using general fund, grants, and SPLOST. We would use general fund if there's a match for something. But more importantly, what we're looking for is housing. The definition of what we're doing is housing for private assistance. It is a new service to describe activities focused on elimination of blight, new affordable housing development, and assistance to private homeowners, developers, and individuals through programs such as the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, the Community Home Improvement Investment Program, the CHIP grant, and Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, it is the GIG program, and other related efforts. Now, this does not include anything with the housing authorities. This is only if you are a homeowner. Through the CHIP grant. Through the CDBG, we're actually able to work with renters and landlords to improve and update homes that people are currently living in. So we don't have to seek demolition, and we can work with them in their private dwellings. So what I'm here today is to ask if we can update our service delivery strategy to include housing revitalization.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Please, ask her a bunch.
Well, no, I mean, the CHIP, as I remember it, is involved, a note, the deed is it's gradually forgiven, leave a residue where the owner takes. Use your house as a lien for some of it, and it's gradually used, and at the end, if they stay and do it, it's very little.
That's right.
But if they don't, then they gotta
They pay
close.
it back.
So, okay, I thought that's what it was.
Yes, and typically it's a 5-year lien. The city we can hold that lien, or we can pass it off to DCA, where DCA can hold the lien, and they actually just work with them and monitor that. If they were ever to put the house up, if we're 5 years in, or 3 years into a 5-year lien, and they move out, they would prorate that, and they do have to pay that back to recoup those funds.
Over the years, having closed some of these, I've seen many of them work out very well.
Yes.
And there are options there saying, we're not gonna put this money in and you try to sell it and not the money come back out, because it will one way or the other.
That's
But
right.
if you go, almost go away to nothing, there's always be a little residue you won't put it back. Is
Yes.
that the way it works?
Yes.
Trying to remember, it's been a while since I've seen one, but that's how I recollect it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, if you guys will remember, when the last CDBG grant that we did collectively was for Ruth's Cottage. And if you were here at the time, I think that was 2018. We had to actually update our service delivery plan to include that. So you have to have, so this is really not about the CHIP grant that we're talking about. The CDBG requirement is that we add this as a use in our service delivery agreement. And if you guys remember how the service delivery forms read, you know, this could be a city-only function. It could be something that, you know, if we wanted to potentially participate, we could word that so that, you know, if we wanted to do something jointly and try to really, even though our CDBG plans are for drainage in South Tifton, you know, other funds, as Emily even described there, whether it be general fund reserves or you know, other funding mechanisms we have, we could list that on the agreement, and that's something we could do together moving forward if the board wants to think about that over the next few days, and us even, you know, give you some samples of the forms and how we can maybe word that.
Well, that's just a big help to the city for us to join with, and it sounds like it'd be smarter letting them apply for the
They could absolutely.
CBDG grant for housing, let us continue to apply for ours for drainage in South Tifton, and just really concentrate in that area.
So I was not, yes, sir, so what I was not saying was to change the CDBG application, but in the service delivery agreement, if we word that right, and we decided that we want to attack this problem collectively, we need to word that change to the service delivery agreement so it would allow the city and the county to do this together, or either we let the city move ahead and we can come back, and if we wanna do, do something a little later, we can do that, and we'd update the plan again. But this is really about the change to the update, or the update to the service delivery agreement, which is what she's requesting.
But if we do update the service delivery, that does allow participation in, among other things, the CHIP program and the.
It allows that as a funding source, so what they're listing that, so when you, if you remember the service delivery agreements, the Form
Yes.
2s, you have to list what you're gonna do, which governments are gonna take part in it, and what each government's funding source would be. So, I mean, she listed, what did you have on yours? You had,
The funding sources for the city would be general fund, grant, and SPOS.
so, I mean, that'd be, if we decided we wanna do it, and we didn't wanna use, we could use the general fund, we could use, SPOS. I mean, there's a lot of ways that can be tackled, but if we think we wanna participate in that, then we need to word the update that we're gonna send in on Form 2 and Form 4 to include the county as a participant, or either, they can move along, y'all can approve this, they can say it's a city-only function, we have to sign it, Omega has to sign it, because all our agreement, we send it to DCA, they're gonna approve it. This is a simple update, and, we have been through some of these where it took a minute to get it done, but that's not what we're looking at here. I mean, it's a simple.
Yeah, and we are on a timeline. The CDBG grant is due April 1st. The city put out an RFP where we have already secured a grant writer, grant administrator, and the contractor. They actually come as a pair. They're a husband and wife couple. So she writes the grant, administers the grant, and he's the contractor for the projects, which is really great. We've already secured them. They have already done the assessment. We just have a roadblock where we have to update service delivery to be able to actually apply for the grant, and we would use this for housing in South Tifton.
I think it'd be smart to go ahead and word it so that we would have that option as well in the future.
So I've actually talked briefly to DCA. We started this call last week. We could not get Rusty on the phone after you and I met, and I got a call back actually yesterday, and I wanted to wait till we get through here before I decided to move forward. But I mean, we can't approve this till Monday night anyhow, so that'll allow me and Emily to do a little wordsmithing on it and see what you guys think. If that's okay.
All right with everybody?
And I'll just add, City Council heard this last night. It was a part of our agenda, and they will be taking a vote on Monday, or the 19th. They all did seem to be in favor of this. Is one of the goals we're doing is to enhance our neighborhoods.
Commissioner Hester, do you have a comment or question on here?
Now, I was saying when you said South Tifton, I know when the city says South Tifton, that's 17th Street, like this way. You're not drawing, because I know some of the CHIP grant, y'all had
That's
4 or 5
right.
months ago, you just had a little area.
Yes, so they look at an assessment as a total composition area. So they consider Ferry Lake the east side of Tifton. They would consider Carpenter Road the west side. They consider South Tifton on the south side, or south of 82. What they would be looking for at the assessment they did would look at recommending choosing South College Avenue, South College Circle, and South Ridge, where this is where the CDBG would be focused on.
Right.
And that's all city.
Right, but so
Yes.
the county, if we wanted to see that expand beyond 17th Street, then, us deciding that we were gonna take advantage of this and maybe have a coexisting program, then we would actually look at projects that are on the other side of this into the incorporated parts of the county with additional funding other than the CDBG money they're applying for.
So what we need to do to extend that?
That's the language in the service delivery agreement that I'm talking about.
Okay.
And what I don't think we wanna do is hold up what the city's doing, because I
Right.
think it's a very positive thing. But, whether we figure this out in the next 5 days so that I think the way we word the service delivery agreement will allow us for them to move forward and us to figure out how we wanna do this. If the county's got money, we've got ARP funds and that kind of stuff, that we could, really look at using and maybe, making this a little more of an all-inclusive, a little more robust program.
That's right.
But we need to get that service delivery agreement in so they can apply for the CDBG grant.
Gotcha.
That doesn't affect us with our CDBG money, because it's for infrastructure like we're doing right now.
That's right. And you would have the same opportunity to apply for those grants as well. And CHIP is solely housing. CDBG, I mean, you can use it for drainage or kind of whatever you wanna do. We've selected to use it on housing. And couple that kind of with URA as well, the Urban Redevelopment Agency, to be able to look at that. They'll have SPOS funds coming up. It was on the referendum, so we have $1 million set aside for them to help.
It
So
don't,
we
to
have-
me, it don't really help us because we don't have a grant writer.
Well, we secured a grant writer. I do have somebody on staff that writes my grants for me, but CDBG and
Call
CHIP
you
are
out 'cause I'll
really
ask.
hard. They're really hard to get. So we did, we put out the RFP, and we searched for somebody. I did not allow someone on staff to write that. It is a very, very competitive grant. And the person that we secured she's well enough, she will tell you, you're not even gonna get it, I'm not entertaining you. She wrote our CHIP grant also. We have not been funded with CHIP in many years. So this is a big opportunity for us as well as CDBG. She feels very hopeful that we'll get it, and she wouldn't have secured it if she doesn't feel that way.
Okay. Any other questions? Consent agenda?
We're gonna reword that, so if we're gonna
So it needs
look
to
at
be
it Monday night,
amended.
let me give you the exact language in the service delivery
Okay.
forms that you have to sign, so if we can get those to you, let me look at those with her and we'll get those to you for, Monday night.
So is this consent agenda or not?
Regular
This
agenda.
is the regular agenda.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
All right,
that's it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, items for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we do need an executive session for personnel, please,
Okay,
and briefly for legal as well.
okay. Any other items for discussion?
Yes. You ready for me?
I'm ready.
Okay. Water treatment plant. I would like to see if we can get a tour of the water treatment.
Absolutely. The wastewater treatment facility?
Yes, please.
Yes, would all of y'all like to do that?
Sure.
Y'all just tell Jim what time and what day, and we'll make it happen. If you've never done it, it is really insightful. It's really a kind of a neat thing to see the operations and to see the process and what happens with the sludge and how we actually apply that to the land after we send it through the press and everything, and then what goes to the landfill after that. So yeah, tell me the date and
I
time.
never thought it was that much fun, Mr. Chairman, but it is very,
It
it is
So-
educational, but,
Yeah, anytime we do tours, if somebody's here, kids, leadership groups, we've started a Tift Youth Council this year with the high school. We'll actually be out there in March touring the facility, and most people get a kick out of it, and it's a lot that you would never even think is processed right here in Tipton.
All right, any other items for discussion? All right, Mr. Carter, any other comments other than yours already made about the executive session?
no, sir.
Mr. Rowell? Commissioner, and Greg?
I'm good.
Vote, Stan, Vanessa? All right, we have a motion to go into executive session for personnel and legal.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.